Welcome to Embracing Infinity, exploring the infinite oneness in the space of love and truth. Host Jennifer Rose is an international spiritual medium, healer, channeler, mentor, and transformational guide. Her focus is encouraging individuals to know themselves within the lens of their divine heart and highest potential, to evolve within the frequency of love and peaceful harmony. Now, here's your host, Jennifer Rose.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy weekend. Welcome to Embracing Infinity. I'm Jennifer Rose, and we're on the Sacred Spiral Network. I see our friends are already starting to join us. Welcome. So happy to see you. Very excited to be sharing this space with our upcoming guest, Elizabeth Stauder, joining me very shortly. We've got some beautiful conversation planned for all of you here to share together, and we look forward to your questions and insights as well if you'd like to complement our discussion. Really quick for announcements, we've got a whole variety of Sacred Spiral Network shows coming on throughout the week, including my sister shows that I do, Fashionably Spiritual with co-host Nancy Maritala and Messages from the Enchanted Realms. I believe they're both next week as well, so it's going to be a busy week for Miss Rose. And Messages from the Enchanted Realms on Saturday with Fran Pierce and Shannon Rattay as well too. The Love Show is taking a day off this coming Monday, but we'll be back the following week. So again, welcome to everybody who's here. I hope you've been navigating the energies okay. There's been a lot of changes astrologically, and I know the energies have been fairly intense for the last several weeks with little breaks and then all coming back. So we've got Mercury retrograde and we've got other retrogrades and all kinds of things happening. But what I've noticed, everybody, that I wanted to share with you briefly as guided by Spirit is that we are doing a lot of clearing of old energies, belief systems, patterns, things like that too. And with that clearing comes experiencing. So if you're wondering why you're feeling a little bit irritated or why you're having thoughts that feel more egoic than you're normally used to, it's just because the energy is moving out of your system and you're having a little bit of a mental experience to go along with it. So hopefully that will help you to navigate the changes as you're moving throughout these weeks and doing your own clearing and letting go process, just to understand you're just experiencing what you're clearing as you're clearing it. And then I would suggest just being one with the sensation of what you're experiencing within your body, within your energy, without being too attached to the story that's playing out in your mind. Take some deep breaths. So I hope that's helpful. It's just a little bit that I felt kind of guided to share with you all here today. And with that, I wanted to say hi to everybody who's joined us so far. I see our beautiful Heidi Gohl from Colorado is here. Welcome, beautiful. Thank you for joining us. Great to see you. So happy that you're here. I see Mr. Brian Lahr, host of Be in the Light every Monday, is here as well. Welcome, my friend. Good to see you. Lots of love to you all. Our beautiful Jennifer McCormick is here as well from the UK, always supporting all of us. So happy to see you. Thank you, beautiful. Thank you for the hashtag lives in the comments as well. That touches the algorithms and lets Facebook and YouTube know that we're a great show and it should be spread out to more people as well too. So we greatly do appreciate that. Miss Evelyn Chesum, welcome, beautiful, from the lovely Solving. Great to see you. Happy Friday to you as well. I see our friend Kay Weezy is here too. Good to see you, my friend. Great that you're here as well. Arnie Layton, welcome, my friend. Good to see you too. So look at we've got all the happy, shiny people here today. So so blessed. Susan Kramer from the UK. Good to see you, beautiful. I hope you're staying cool over there. It has been hotter in the UK for the past several weeks than it has been in California, like Southern California. Like it makes no sense, but hey, this is where we're at. So everything's a little bit topsy-turvy, but that kind of goes along with the energies, right? Things are sort of inside out and right side up and upside down. So there we go. We flow with it. Miss Suzanne Bolton, hello. Thank you for joining us. So happy that you're here as well. Thank you for joining us too. And I think we're all caught up. I hope I haven't missed anybody. But thank you again for your little hashtag lives. Thank you for hearting our video if you're on Facebook. That also really helps with the algorithms too. It helps our other like connected friends and family over on Facebook start to like know that our live is going through the feed there is too. We love follows over on Facebook and subscriptions over on YouTube. For all of us gals here, we greatly appreciate that. It really helps us to keep growing that little click of a button. So thank you for that as well. And any sharing, tagging, subscribing, greatly appreciated. And with that, everybody, again, I'm so happy to be welcoming my special guest here today. Let's go ahead and bring on Elizabeth Stauder. Hello, my friend.
Hi, it's so good to be here. I can already feel the coherence in this field.
It's beautiful, isn't it? We're very blessed. Yeah. I'm so happy that you joined me, and thank you. You have not only do you have just such a beautiful energy, your beautiful soul, but you have so much just lovely wisdom to share with all of us here so that we can all kind of be in this space together. So I'm very excited about that. So I'm so happy that you said yes. I had my eye on you for a little while and I'm like, it's time. We've got to get this going. All right. Really quickly, Elizabeth, I'm going to read your bio for anybody who's just kind of getting to know you for the first time. And so just give me a second to do that so I can let people know a little bit more about you. Okay, everybody, Miss Elizabeth Stauder is a somatic transformation coach, modern day shaman, and pioneer for regenerative medicine and new earth consciousness. Hallelujah to that. She combines neuroscience with mythological storytelling to guide her clients through the metamorphosis process, an experiential hero's journey for embodied awakening within community. She's devoted to supporting the integration of soul and body so people can live freely and authentically. Now, you know why I like Elizabeth, right, everybody? You can find her on her website at bodyandsoulsanctuary.com. And on YouTube, she's over on Entering the Stream. She has her own YouTube channel over there. And Facebook, Elizabeth Stauder, and on Instagram, Entering the Stream. So please do check her out and give her a follow and a subscribe as well, too. Okay, my friend, are you ready to get started?
Yes, let's.
Okay, let's do it. So when we were talking before the show a few weeks ago, when we were getting all of the schedules, we noticed that we had kind of a similar thing in common, that we had been through a lot of transformation. And that also includes during the time of COVID period. We both had kind of like another big up leveling on top of what we had already experienced. And and we resonated a lot with the understanding of how we are experiencing duality when we're going through these, big openings, big awakenings, big, up leveling of consciousness. And as I've tried to explain it to people when I'm trying to teach about spiritual awakening, is a lot of people don't know like why they have like dark experiences. It's when they're having an awakening too. And I often refer to the shaman tradition because the shamans understand, they have that journey into the underworld, and they understand what that means as part of the initiation of integrating duality to come into the higher consciousness. And so I know that was a little bit of a mouthful. So how did this kind of come about for you? Because since then you've been putting in all of your knowledge together so that you can really help people understand what they're going through.
Yes, I love that you brought that awareness. And I don't, whether you're talking about it from a shamanic lens or even just a dimensional or awakening lens, like that way that the contrast gets really loud, right? As we're about to break through into the next level, is just part of you could say, physics of the experience. But yeah, for me, I could go into the details of it, but in a more simple sense, it was, I believe, just that I needed to experience the depths of the survival programs running in my physiology, in my nervous system. And I had already been studying neuroplasticity and the nervous system, but I I happened to, part of my journey was to experience reaching the extreme to where my physical body was, literally hanging by a thread and easily could have just disappeared. And it's so interesting too. I think people will resonate this who've been on the spiritual path. I got to really see the part of me who actually always wanted to just be in the spirit realm and actually was feeling like aversive to life, like from, probably infancy, but that was buried under the surface. So to be in a position where then I actually had to, you could say fight for, but really more just like choose from a place of real agency, my life, in order to actually stay here on planet Earth. I believe that for me, that was the beginning of really seeing the parts of me that were still kind of holding life at bay. I mean, I had seen it before, but I had to really transmute them. And yes, it can be painful and dark, like you said, to see these parts of ourselves. But this is why I talk about metamorphosis, because it's like the caterpillar has to turn into total goo, like total goo. And on the shaman's path, there's a term of dismemberment. And it is that learning to die before you die that a lot of spiritual teachers will talk about. And my experience is that is a literal thing. It happens with our identity and our ideas as we work with consciousness, but it also happens at the level of the biology. So, yeah.
Very true. Very true. And I know that everybody's going to be different in what they experience in their psychic realm when they're going through that process. But you can even feel like you are almost like your whole body is being, in a way, in a psychic kind of way, and so that's why some people may misunderstand this as some kind of like external psychic attack or something coming against them. They don't realize it's their own subconscious mind or higher self that's manifesting these experiences, so that you can really, like you said, disintegrate before you reintegrate once again too, right? And so it gets very mystical and metaphysical and out of this world, very extraordinary with all of that too. But I'm happy that we can at least mention that little part of it, or not even a little part, but mention that part of it so that people understand what they're going through, because I know how dark and lonely it can get. And it's like, and then the psyche's just projecting all kinds of stories around what that looks like, but it's not wrong. It has a very like symbolic, right, presence to it. So how has the symbology of it like shown up for you in this process, as you've kind of combined so beautifully science and spirituality and all of that together?
Yeah, I love, I think symbols are such a beautiful synthesis. Like, what's that phrase? Like, a picture says 1,000 words. And I did a little blurb on the infinity symbol yesterday to my newsletter.
Yes,
but
it was so good. Well written, by the way, beautifully written. Yes,
thank you.
I loved it.
And cultures have been using symbols for as long as there have been people, on this earth, and probably before. And so I just find that, especially now when the planet is going into this next level of unification, and I think a lot of times people will confuse unity with enmeshment and codependency, but what it actually is this beautiful place where we're each so in touch with our sovereign soul, and then we become intimate and combine our energies in this powerful way. And so my question has been like, well, how do I share these concepts? I could share them with people who are maybe in the more medical or science crowd, using explanations of the nervous system and neurochemistry and blah, blah, blah. I might use it with a child. I might just be playing the whole time with them and not trying to explain it, and the work is still happening. And so I was like, so how, symbols are a really great way to transmit something that kind of crosses through the various lenses of religion and culture. And so I've been using lots of symbols in my work. I think, for example, just that classic journey of metamorphosis and the caterpillar into the cocoon and the butterfly. And I've been hearing other transformational leaders using the same metaphor. I think when we can point to nature, something out there that we can observe, first of all, it feels a little safer to our nervous system than trying to experience this thing and not have any reference, but to point to something and say, nature knows what she's doing. And we can see that there's a wisdom and there's coding in the way that that's happening. And there's lots of other metaphors we can use too. So there's the metaphor of the caterpillar into the butterfly. through the chrysalis, which is the alchemical part or the dismemberment part itself inside of the cocoon. But then there's also even the journey of a seed. I know a lot of people use the metaphor of the star seed, right, as the soul that's planted on planet Gaia. But I've experienced that somatically. That works really well for people as a universal symbol for bringing the soul into a state of consciousness with the body. And then all of the phases, the alchemical phases that one goes through in order for that seed to become a blossom. And they each, are tied to different alchemical experiences that we have in the journey of transformation. So that is also a kind of a universal symbol that I like to use. Yeah.
I love that so much. That's so beautiful. And the infinity came to me very early on in my transformation. I didn't really know how significant it would become, but boy, by the time I was in the thick of it in COVID, I was like drawing those things left and right. It was just, it was crazy.
I love that story about you. Like your body was so wise. It just was like,
it was
and oscillating. And I think we talked about this too, because one of the meditations I teach is called the butterfly wings. And it's basically the figure 8 on its side, just like the infinity, but it's weaving it through the neurochemistry of the body to weave the brain hemispheres and the healing energy with the trauma energy to help them integrate. Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. And just a couple of days ago, it was very late. I have a private circle I went to and that I've been a part of for many years. And I got home very late at night. There had been a little accident on the freeway and stuff. So a hummingbird flew in my garage just as I was getting home. They don't fly at night. That's not normal, right? And hummingbirds fly in the infinity. That's how they fly. And I was like, oh my God, I should have gotten it on film. But I was more concerned of trying to help it get back out of the garage. But I look back now and go, oh my gosh, that was there for a reason. It's so cool too. And the transformation process is brutal. We all know this, right? And I don't think we understand why it is, but what you just brought up now reminds me like of nature and how everything kind of dies, but then it's reborn in the spring again too. And this morning that Rose song by Bette Midler came on and it reminded me of that too. And I was, how timely was that, right? Because it survives the winter, but then it kind of makes it too. So so we want to appreciate how hard it is to transform, how extremely painful it is, but the beauty. Don't forget the beauty that comes with it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that you brought that song in because it's actually such a perfect metaphor for the awakening we're going through, even from a nervous system perspective, right? Because there's that line about it being under the snow, and in a way it's like, that's exactly what our, can you hear me? I know mine fall out sometimes too.
It just fell out. Yeah.
They just kind of like fly around like hummingbirds or butterflies.
There we go.
Oh yeah. Well, because, I talk a lot about freeze in the nervous system, and it's this beautiful and also challenging reality. I mean, the reason we have, the reason that we freeze is to kind of help our body not get overwhelmed and die when there's so much that we're trying to digest and move through our system. And so thank goodness we have this beautiful biological mechanism that's like, let's just tuck that away and we can continue with life until there's enough holding and enough space and unconditional presence and support for this to go into the cocoon and go into the goo and to release and move into its next cycle. But in a way, you could say humankind has been in a sort of prolonged period of freeze for a while due to just the compounded collective traumas, generational traumas, cultural traumas. And so I often do visualize it like the snow, and like, thank you to the snow for kind of just like holding this. But as we wake up, it's starting to melt. And so it's almost like, when your hands wake up after they've been in the cold and they start to sting, it's like, wow, ow, ow. But if you can be in touch with the fact something's coming awake, something's coming alive, all those little buds are starting to snap and move underneath that tundra, like that's what's happening to us.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And I love that you put the freeze response in a positive light too, as like, this is, something that's happening for us too. And it reminds me, because I know we like to use the word blocks or energetic blocks a lot. And I've been guided by spirit, and they're just more like waiting to, they're just like, it's more on hold. It's more just waiting for the right time, and it's a
Yes.
gentler approach. It's almost like it's been crystallized a little bit just until it's waiting for the right time to be released. So
Yes.
I love how you put that too, because it's just a softer, gentler way. So we're not looking at it as wrong, something wrong that we have to just,
Right. Right. Because the last thing that our
Yeah.
nervous system needs is to have that blasted through and be like, like you don't chop through the ice to get the flower. You hold it in this like warm presence, and then it's like, okay, now I can let go. It's a very different approach.
So beautiful. I love it. I love that. It's so beautiful. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that too. And so let's go to like the next step, Miss Elizabeth, is now that we've awakening, and there's always more. I know there's always going to be layers. Like I'm still going through more layers of awakening too, just day by day. We all are. I'm just like, I know it doesn't end, but I'm like, really, there's more. Like, okay, but it can be hard. I think there's two awakenings, because it can be hard to then reintegrate back into the 3D, which seems very false to us, or very, almost foreign to us after we've experienced so much spiritual magic and mystery and miracles and all of that. And we realize that we're a true soul having a human experience, right? And then how do we kind of, and I think a lot of people don't want to go back into the 3D, and they don't understand maybe that that I think this is where kind of the second awakening comes, is like realizing that we need to come back. We went over there so that we could bring it back here, bring heaven to earth to help raise the conscious of humanity. So how can we do that with a little more ease and flow? I'm going to hand that over to you.
Brilliant question. Oh my gosh. And this is like the actual like training. This is actually the, like the long training. I love how I think it's in that book, After the Ecstasy, the Laundry, like is that Jack Kerouac, I believe. He says like most spiritual books end with the awakening, but this one starts with the awakening, because the question is, how do you do the laundry after the ecstasy, right? Yeah, and I know for me, and this is a lot of what I teach, and I think why we have to sort of continue to practice once we've sort of pierced the veil and we've felt what it's like to be unified with that unconditional loving presence, that bliss. There's okay, so can I now let that reach and seep into every aspect of my life, my relationships, my finances, my self-care, my health care, how I take care of my home, how I have conversations in the world. And that is kind of like the thaw, it's like the heat is that awakening, and then there is this slow thaw of the nervous system. And what happens when we start to thaw is that those intense programs and traumas and conditionings that were sort of bunched up in there start to kind of unwind. And this is the gooey, messy part inside of the chrysalis. And I think, first of all, it brings ease to just understand, like before we even work with the mechanics of it, it brings ease just to understand this is what's happening. And so that I can sort of, in Buddhism, there's the idea of the first and the second arrow. And the first one is the suffering of being a human being that you can't avoid. And the second is making a story of suffering about your suffering, right? So this takes care of that second arrow of like, okay, what's happening is actually a beautiful and natural, albeit hard thing. And I'm not going to add to it by making a story about it being, myself being a victim to it, or myself being at fault for it, or myself, any way that I make myself or anyone or anything wrong. We start by just kind of, it forces us into this kind of surrendered state of humility, right? And a way to bring, I love that your question is how to bring more ease to that, because I think more and more people are realizing that transformation is real and something that we're all undergoing and that we're being invited to undergo. And this is where, honestly, for me, every time I go through another cycle, it's like, oh, I didn't know I could get more gentle and more compassionate with a part of myself. I didn't know that was possible. It feels like deepening layers of compassion. And I do find that working somatically, I love that you mentioned that in the intro, and being with sensations. It's not always appropriate to be with the sensation. Sometimes we need to be with it in more of an imaginal channel or a sensory channel, or working with the thoughts. It just depends on the person, like what the right order is. We're all such unique, brilliant creatures. And that's what I love about my training, is it's really to attune and not put everyone in the same one size fits all. But there is a pathway that's like each nervous system's easiest doorway into how can I go through transformation and actually be more in touch with the pearl that I'm harvesting that's at the bottom of this dark cave or pool or whatever metaphor you want to use, then the pain of whatever is falling away. So where the falling away is actually secondary. And you could even say the 3D is secondary in identity to the 5D. So there's like can I hold on to this unified consciousness and not need everything to be pristine? Like I have to be, like everything has to be quiet. I'm alone in my cave and I have $1 million, all those things have to be true. And then I can feel that. But can I actually see that I am so powerful that I can actually be in touch with that identity that is greater than my circumstances, greater than life and death and incarnation, and literally bring that in me, through me, almost like a energy conduit or a toroidal field into the moment. And what I find is, because in the nervous system work and the somatics, we really train our physical body to be in the present moment and to release more and more layers of what's pulling us into the future or the past.
Yeah.
There's a kind of like beginner's mind newness that we can bring to every experience the more that falls away. And so I can bring that beginner's mind when I'm having another autoimmune flare, or when I'm having another hard conversation with my mom, or when a trigger comes up about whatever it might be. And then I can say, can I allow my physical vessel to pause from its habitual response? And what would happen if I just let this vessel behave freely from this unified consciousness, not losing it? It's a completely, you said this, use the word inversion or upside down. It's a completely inverse way to live. And I think that's probably why a lot of us are feeling that right now too, because that's the invitation is, can we actually flip them, where we're not giving our power to the 3D, but we're also not blocking it. We're literally sourcing our power from the 5D and then allowing that to flow into the 3D and inform our conversation with the 3D.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pieces to what makes that more easeful, and it depends on where someone's nervous system is. But I think one thing that I think really helps is recognizing that unified consciousness is not a rare resource. It's actually like this truer, like I use the term, the cosmic womb. It's actually the womb in which we are swimming, like the water behind us on this beautiful image. It's like, oh, what if everything that is in the 3D is like this little seed that's kind of been enclosed, and what's right outside the seed is this beautiful soil and water and nutrients and sun and rain and all the things that want to nourish the seed. Wouldn't that just make the seed want to get soft and porous and begin to open and not be so stuck on its rigid form, right? And so I think when we realize where we're going is actually includes where we already are, and it's bigger than that, and it's nourishing it, and it's inviting it out, that helps.
You speak so poetically. So I'm just like, it's like hearing beautiful music. So I'm almost entranced by it. So
yeah.
And, you speak about the womb, you speak about the seed, when it's planted in the ground, and that's in darkness. So that in darkness is where transformation and I know that some people, they're afraid of their darkness, the unknown or the unseen, but it's not until if we are really meant to be messengers of light, what I prefer to call it messengers of love, you have to be brave enough to enter into the darkness and bring the light into it as well too. But that is where transformation happens. Babies, they're in a mother's womb. It's dark in there until they come out and go, oh, wow. And then the seed has to break open and find its way up into the sunlight too. I know we wish it weren't all so hard, but this is how it is. But so
it's funny
beautifully
because
said.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
I learned, I think it was Dr. Zach Bush that talks about how we actually have even more light like inside of ourselves than the sun
Yes,
outside of ourselves. So I think it's helpful to
exactly.
remember
Yeah.
that actually it might feel dark, but what we're doing is just kind of putting a momentary blindness over the light we've been used to find an even more powerful source of light that just right here. It's actually in here.
I know. And it's ready to like burst. It's ready to burst out and like illuminate everything, right? Too. And so I do feel like people like all of us here in our community, we're kind of spread out around the planet now, and we're amplifying this light to help with this global ascension process. It's very important right now. I mean, this is a really important time to be alive and do this work and brave the transformation, but knowing that there's so much beauty that is to be found and to come to you in response to that as well too. Now you speak a lot about the nervous system, and I know there's a lot of that going around on social media. People are talking all about the nervous system when they're talking about relationships and when they're talking about spirituality and things like that too. Could you give us just a little bit of information on that, and like, what does that mean? Like the nervous system and how it connects with our body, and then also our mental and emotional aspects as well too. And then what does it mean to heal? And we talk about healing the split. So there's going to be the split within us, and then there's going to be the collective split as well too. But just to get like back to basics a little bit of like what that actually means. We talk about, my nervous system feels fried, or my nervous system feels over, I need to regulate my nervous system. And some people might be going, what does that mean? How do I do that?
Yeah, well, there's so many ways to go on this question, but like what comes to me to share is like a metaphor of a healthy cell wall, right? Or even like an auric field, right? And if you look at a picture of a nervous system, it looks like little roots or tree like branches. And it's literally like if, when people will talk about us having a frequency or a radio signal that lets out something and that also lets information in a way that's one of the tasks of the human nervous system. And it's neutral. And like, there was another, who was it? Dr. Catherine Clinton, I think, talked about the nervous system almost like an instrument for the divine, because it's also, in the same way the biorhythms are, right? That the sun and the moon and how that affects our hormonal cascade and these things. The nervous system being like our sensory apparatus to be connected to the all, and also to have the capacity to know ourselves as distinct at the same time. And so in a way, our task at becoming regulated in the nervous system is to have that healthy both and, where we are, the cell wall is boundaried and also porous for the right ingredients to come in. So there's like a capacity to discern. And this is where neuroplasticity comes in, because a lot of us, because of our trauma, don't have that very healthy, we either didn't have enough boundaries. And so all kinds of things are flooding in. And this is what I think a lot of sensitives and empaths experience, where I don't know how to filter. And so I'm digesting stuff that's really not, I don't need to, and I don't know how to stop it, or the opposite, like when we're in a really tight freeze and we're just kind of like, I can't let anything anymore. And thank goodness that, again, we have that to protect us so we don't just explode. Yeah. But then we actually close off that greater field of love that the seed needs to grow. And so we become sort of stuck and blocked.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of, I think, easy, natural way to think about regulation, is to arrive at that place where there's that healthy And I'm making these gestures because there's a rhythmicity to it. It's like
Yes.
when we're babies, like what soothes a child is the rocking motion, and what, the tides of the ocean and the beat of the heart. So this is the interesting thing about living in a dual universe, is a dual universe that is coherent is where the two opposites are moving back and forth like the infinity, with a smoothness and a rhythmicity, right? So regulation would be, can you move between states of rest and states of being excited and activated and creative, and then digesting and settling and being like, oh, now I can just let go, and oh, now I can be active, and I can set boundaries and like go more in the direction of my clarity. And that felt really good. And then now I can relax and enjoy and savor like having accomplished that. And so there's a healthy, positive experience both when we go up and when we go down, weaving, you could say, the light and the dark and the yin and the
Love
yang
it.
together.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is so beautifully put, because I think that's where a little bit of the confusion comes in, is because we don't know what to do with intensity. And we can often perceive that as wrong unless the intensity is showing up maybe as joy or creative flow. Then we can handle it. But then when the intensity is showing up in a different way, we can perceive that as wrong because of the story that's playing out, whatever has activated that or triggered that intensity too.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we're just like, we just want this sort of like the peaceful, restful state all the time. That's what we think we want, because maybe that's what we think is supposed to be normal or healthy. But what I have come to understand is that the nervous system can adapt, and that if we don't have intensity, we may unconsciously create intensity, and we might not like how we created to happen, if that makes sense. And so, like you said, is learning to master the flow of the peaceful, calm serenity, but also the excitement too. And the excitement of your nervous system isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's that's all in perception. So that's why sometimes separating what's going on in your mind and just feeling it in your body, helps us to understand our own energy, feel our own energy without putting, maybe just without putting judgment on it. Like, this is just what I'm feeling. So sometimes if I'm feeling what might perceive as sadness to me because something's happened, makes me feel sad, the emotion is perfectly beautiful as it is. And I might just say my sadness needs me right now. And I'll just be kind of like one with my sadness too. But I'm also just like, what does that feel like in my body? And I'm just like, well, this is just energy. I don't have to judge it. I can allow it to move through me. And then the trigger doesn't last as long.
Yeah, precisely. And you're describing one of the, because then we sort of get into repatterning, because in a way you could say dysregulation is just where that rhythmicity has been interrupted in some way. So either, I either am sort of overshooting where, okay, this is the point at which I should be rest and calm. And that's why I think there is some truth to people saying, okay, now I need to calm, but instead of having it be a forceful thing, there's a way to work with it organically. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes someone is stuck in too low, like too underneath the mark, and they need to have the courage to feel something a little bit stronger. And then what they find, like you just said, is that the strength of the feeling actually completes the response. And then, it let go on its own when I stopped letting go of control. And then the third way would be where someone doesn't fully let themselves appreciate what they've just accomplished once they've actually reached a new level. They're like constantly striving for the next. And what ends up happening then is like there's a crash, and that's where you get burnout experiences.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not guilty of that ever. Just but yeah, exactly. We can get so peaceful and calm that now we're like almost feeling bored because there is that creative impulse within us that needs to do something. And so that's why it's important that we can creatures. We can take the agency to create experiences that have more intensity to it, so that perhaps we don't get, hit sideways in a different way that we might not wish, we all have to appreciate that sometimes we like the intensity that we're creating, but we can create it in a different way that might be more healthy or preferred as well too. Miss Heidi has said, at times years ago, I felt though I was a buoy in the ocean, and I eventually learned to ebb and flow in my crabby cancer feels. That's so beautiful. But the energies are intense. She's struggling at times. It has been these last few weeks. I definitely have noticed a surge, and we've had them throughout the year. Now that we're into month 7, But these last few weeks, definitely, it's like, woo, that's a doozy. There's a lot of purging going on, and that's a little bit of a stronger word too. But it seems like there's a lot of releasing. We're experiencing it now, and that's one thing that that I had kind of channeled through spirit. And they're like, you're just experiencing it mentally as you're energetically releasing it. And I think that helps people to understand what's happening, so they don't get like too like hooked into the stories of it.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
And I think it could be helpful to know too that that's the same story in the nervous system, is that when the freeze thaws, that intensity has to kind of have its like word so before it can smooth out and release.
Yeah.
So I think part of it too is the ways we've suppressed our animal nature, and that's what I love about just being non-judgmental about the body, because the body is holding fight and flight. So it's holding the anxiety and it's holding the anger. But these are, when we work with them, like you said, in a new way, in a creative way, instead of trying to suppress them, like these are the things that are showing our healthy cell wall how to become our sovereign, right? And so it might actually be, this is navigating the 3D, right? It might actually, usually, if it's anger, for example, it probably is a boundary. And I know for me, that was a big one. Was I had I think a lot of women suppress our anger.
Oh yes. Oh yes. That's the big one.
Where is this rage coming from? But like, that was how it became clear what I needed to make radical changes in my life. And so this is also how we transform the 3D. It's not just a movie that we're in, like it's our tapestry, it's our canvas, and we can take the paintbrush and paint differently. It's powerful.
I love that. I love that so much. That's why we talk about the dragon a lot too, because there is like feminine anger and rage is a very real thing. It's very prominent, especially lately too, because there's so many things happening in the world. There are so many violations. So it's actually an appropriate emotion to feel. It's just what we do with it, how we use it in the best way to facilitate something positive from it too. And Miss Susan was saying she's so used to anxiety that when it isn't there, you go looking for it. That's true. Yeah. So the nervous system, that's a good question to ask you, because the nervous system tends to attract what it knows. So if we're like, that's why maybe we attract the same kind of partner, the same kind of pattern. And we're like, why is this repeating over and over and over again? It's like, because that's what you know. And when you think about what you're thinking about what you would like to receive, or what kind of relationship you would like to have, but you've never had a role model of that in your lifetime. How do you know that? How do you find, you know what I mean? Because you don't know it. And that's why you keep gravitating towards the familiar. So how can we release some of that, the known, and step into the unknown? How can we teach our nervous system that it's okay? Like we're going to look for something new. Now this is going to be better for us. Scary, but
that's the work. That is the work, right? And I always say, like, if it's hard to access, is there even one moment that you can recall in your entire life where the mysterious or the unknown actually felt good to you? Maybe it was a little scary and exciting, but there was something positive about it, because this is what's so neat about neuroplasticity. You're true. If like when 100% of us has never had the experience, we literally don't know. But even if 1% of us has had a positive experience with the new thing, we can build on that. It just means that most of our neural networks are trained the opposite way. But this is where the work comes, is like, instead of trying to combat the 99% that are trained in the familiar way, can we like take that 1% like a seed and like protect it? Like put our hands around it and be like, I'm going to blow on this ember. I'm going to give it my attention. And actually our attention is our greatest currency. It's like, it's the thing, it's where our sovereignty lives. Like someone can steal our, money and burn down our house, and, our partner might leave, but our attention, the power of our attention is purely, ours. And so can you train your attention to the 1% that is, it doesn't have to be like, I love the mystery and I love the unknown, but it is at least neutral and curious instead of aversive. Is there 1%? Where can you find that in your body, or in a memory of yours, or maybe a person that when you're with them, you feel it's a little easier to be, curious instead of resistant.
Yeah.
And then how do you feel that? Because whatever that is, how small that might be, it's like putting wood on a fire that just has barely any kindling on. You just keep building. And that's when the neural pathways start to grow. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I love that you also put that in a kind of a scientific manner too, because that's something that the logical part of our brain and our mind can wrap its head around. Like, oh, we're building new pathways. We can build new pathways. That's what neuroplasticity is. The brain can change, right? And then we can change.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and it and I think if we don't expect it to be an overnight process, the understanding that it takes time, it's going to be an incremental change, but with effort and consistency, we can do it. Right.
And if you think about
Yeah.
something like those people who learned how to ride a bike as a kid, now you don't think about it. You probably had to spend several days when you were however old putting that effort in, but it's the same thing. And so, if you have the same diligence to like learn how to ride a bike, can you apply that to the neuroplasticity of whatever you're leaning into the mystery about, whatever that is for you?
Yeah.
And it might take a lot of effort. It will take effort for a while, like repetitions, like training of the mental gymnasium and the somatic gymnasium. But there will come a day where you don't have to think about it, because enough of those pathways will be like, oh, it's easier for the train to run down that now because she's been putting so much energy there. And it'll be as easy as jumping on a bike and not thinking about it.
That's so beautiful. I just love it. I mean, did we ever try a new food that we really wanted to learn to like, and it took 15, 20 tries before we actually got used to it, but we stuck with it because for some reason, either we're forced to because that's what was, being fed to us in the family, or because we just really wanted to, try it, that kind of thing. But
hopefully
we did,
it's something
right?
that we're actually drawn to by
exactly right, exactly. But we have done it. Like there have been times where we were curious enough to take a little nibble, a little bite, and like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it. Oh, wait, I might actually like that. Okay, let's try a little. And then eventually you're like, this stuff is awesome. Like I never, when I was a teenager, I looked at guacamole and it was green and I was, ew. But then I got real curious and now I love avocado, what I mean? That kind of thing. But you're right. It's that little curious 1% that says, do it.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, because otherwise we're just reinforcing more of contorting ourselves or people pleasing ourselves to change for something else or someone else's idea. It has to be connected to our own intrinsic motivation. Is there actual real intrinsic curiosity coming from some part of me that's genuine? Yeah.
Yeah. Love it so much too. Now let's talk about the word somatic, like what that actually means, just to break that down, because in just in case anyone's not super familiar, because we do hear that going around as well too. And so I've come to understand sort of in lay terms as we moving the energy, getting in tune with our body, embodying the frequencies and all of that too. But let me hear your more masterful definition of it.
Yeah, I mean, in simple terms, it does just mean of the body. So, but I think it is more that a simplified way of talking about bringing. This is another infinity. Bringing our right brain much more into the picture, because right, the goal is coherence between the left and the right, and our culture is so left brain dominant, so we're kind of swirling around up here, and then sometimes we go down here and we're like, whoa, that's the unknown, I'm back, and go back up to the up to here. But somatics is a way to unpeel, to get some space from whatever patterns have kind of been keeping us in this loop over here, to have that curiosity to come over and feel. And I think it, like I said, it doesn't always have to happen in sensation, but sensation is kind of, you could say, at least from a human perspective, like as a baby, like it's the first language before we learn how, to speak cognitively. And so it's like, maybe later your brain's like, I don't like to eat green things, but something older in you that was maybe more in touch with the tactile and the taste and these more sensory things was like, but I'm curious to try this, even though my mind is like, green things, ick, so you're like kind of suspending the mental story. It's just a great example. I know it's funny.
Oh, I know, it's great. Yeah. And it's like you have
But we
to
can do
teach your
this.
ego. You have to teach your ego. I don't even like to use the word ego, but we're all so familiar with that word. You can teach your ego that it can learn new things. We can do hard
Yes.
things. I would say we can do hard things. We can do impossible things if we just are willing to try even simple little differences, where we're not so
Yeah.
stuck in the familiar. And it's like if you can teach that part of you, that protective part of you, let's just try something different. Like, oop, I didn't die. I survived. Oop, that was okay. Right. Then you go
Yeah.
another little one,
Yeah.
another little one. Right.
Yeah. And what's so beautiful
Yeah.
about somatics and my favorite part, I have lots of, one of my favorite parts of my training in particular is that we learn to see how the body is already providing the resources that we haven't been able to find consciously. So we might be having the same looping thoughts. Say someone's just gone through a breakup and they're having all kinds of hard thoughts and emotions and pain. If they kind of stopped that for a moment and noticed their body, maybe they're sitting against the wall and they're like this and they're kind of rocking and they didn't even notice it. So what's happening is your body, some greater presence that automatically knows what you need, is actually coming in. And in the same way like an energy healer might do for you, but almost as if there's the great field of the energy healing happening through your body, and is trying to soothe you. It's trying to hold the places that hurt and that are screaming, and the rocking is regulating the intensity. And so what's so beautiful and something we can all practice too is like if you're in a moment where you're literally like against the wall, you're feeling desperate, you're feeling anxious, whatever it might be, pause for a moment, the story or even the emotion, and just notice what like position your body's in. And sometimes it's like even just your hands, and you can bring your attention to how like your own body is trying to soothe your own body. And so that's what's so beautiful is the body does this even before it does it before our conscious mind can catch up. And so if we can more directly get those resources through the body, and then later the mind can be like, oh, actually that's not so bad. It almost like the left brain follows that lower like base consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I hold my hands too. Like I find myself, my hands holding each other. And when I think about the rocking, it's like still to this day, like if I hear a baby crying at the grocery store and I'm like sitting here with the shopping cart, I just start doing this. And it really is like the mother does the infinity. She holds her baby like this, right? Right. To
And
help.
what's so
And with a
cool
little
is
bit
that
of a
baby
shape.
probably feels it because our
Yeah.
field goes out so many feet in front of us that you
I
doing
know.
that helps the baby.
I got chills all over. Oh my God, that's so cool. I got chills all over with that. That's so awesome. Love that so much. And I would think things, any kind of movement like yoga, dancing, even just shaking, things like that can sometimes help to just move the energy a little bit or shift the energy depending on the situation, right?
Yeah, depending on the situation, I think, because what tends to happen is the left brain loves to take charge of anything. And so it might be like, oh, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing these postures, and I'm doing it in this controlled way. But what we really want is to allow the body to show us its rhythm, So like right now it might feel good to stretch, but then later it actually, a lot of times for a lot of us who've been hyper independent women, for example, functioning and over functioning and doing a lot, if we actually slow down and listen, the body's actually asking us to stop moving and to be a little bit more still. But then again, not forcing, oh, I need to, like, once the body's like, and now I want to start moving, like letting the body move. And, I was teaching in class the other day about how those of us who grew up in traditional school systems were like taught to like force ourselves to sit in a desk all day, and how unnatural that is, and how much quicker children actually develop in their brain socially when they're actually at an alternative school where they're allowed to like play in the forest and climb trees and just follow. No, actually, now I need to go move my body, and now I need to get down on the ground, and now I really want to learn this piece of math or writing, and they get that agency to move at the rhythm that their body wants to learn. So we need to give ourselves that same permission when we're moving or when we're still.
Yeah, I love that so much. Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of if it works in your family structure of, homeschooling or, other systems of schooling that allow kids to be outdoors more and are just not quite so rigid and in the box, because they tend to train your brain to only learn one way too. And it's just not natural. And sometimes that's all that's
Mhm.
available. So we work with that the best that we can. But yeah, I love that so
Mhm.
much
Mhm.
too. And let me see, if anyone has any questions, let us know here too. Miss Susan is saying her mantra is consistency, discipline, and motivation. It gets easier. And then Evelyn, oh, you just came in, Evelyn. You can watch the replay, my darling. Good to see you, love. And we're still talking. Miss Vivian, she's a psychiatrist over in Hawaii that's joining us, and you're in Taiwan right now. Wow, you got traveling. Excellent. Good to see that, Miss Vivian. She's been wanting to travel, so I'm like, she did it. She's traveling. It makes me so
Yay.
happy. That's Miss Happy. Okay. Now I want to get back to the other word that you said is coherence, and that is,
Mhm.
like you said, this like rhythmic balance. And I think probably the broad perception, if we look out into the world and what's going on right now with all the events, it seems to be out of coherence. I'm not sure what your thoughts are that, but I would say that's a perception that probably a lot of people would carry. And then we're talking about raising the density as a spiritual community, and learning
Mhm.
to unify or integrate duality to bring us into this higher state of
Mhm.
being and awareness that is more in flow, in tune,
Mhm.
in rhythm, but in a new way, not in sort of the
Mhm.
maybe not in the ancient ways, but in a new way, too, that
Yes.
we may not fully understand that too. And then that's why I strongly feel like there's all of these people spread around the world, and we're trying to help bring in the coherence. So we have to form this sort of coherent field with each other so that we can affect the whole as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just saw that someone wrote, what is the definition of a shaman? And I
Great
actually think that
question.
matches what you're asking,
Yeah.
because my understanding and experience is that someone who is here to sort of weave the threshold between the worlds, right? And there's different kinds of shamans. It could be someone working with plants, it could be someone working with spirits. But the thing that makes a shaman is that they're connected to that greater animate field, and helping weave that with the field here of the 3D, right? So probably a lot of people here are shamans, maybe if they wouldn't call themselves that, but they probably are. Um, um, and I love, it's this beautiful. I just think nature is so beautiful how it's designed, and the natural law of the universe, right? Because
Mm.
we're able to find a certain level of harmony, even in the midst of things being, you know, not processed fully, right? Like if there still is trauma that's not processed fully, which clearly is the case right now on our planet. Like there's obviously, I mean, it has been the case. And I love how, for example, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a lot when he was raising awareness about racism, he would talk about, what was it, like a false peace, where he was like, you might think that things were peaceful before we began to speak up, but they were actually not peaceful for us because we were living in a subjugated way. So sometimes people will say peace when it just means things were like, they were just like nothing intense or dramatic was happening. But something came and was like, no, actually, we need to bring more of a deeper coherence, and a more coherence in which more parts of us that have been suppressed are part of the conversation, part of the communion, right? So whether that's
Mhm.
race, or whether it's economics, culture, whether it's the four-legged and the plant beings and the elements, but like whatever way there is some kind of unhealthy hierarchy where there isn't a real respectful communion between all living things, there's going to have to be a reckoning moment where, what was a false peace, actually, it's not that it's becoming less peaceful, it's actually that something that was suppressed is like wanting its voice to be a part of the story. And so, there's a beautiful moment, for example, in a somatic healing session where this even happens at the level of the body. We have our heart rate, variability. We have our pulse. We have the way that we breathe, the way our body does things automatically. But when we actually start to reclaim a soul part or heal and integrate a trauma physically, there is often a moment where something goes out of whack temporarily before it comes back into coherence. So you might see someone's heart actually race even faster, or their breath get shallower, or have shaking or tears or tension, like where their muscles get tight. And what's happening is like that moment where you talked about the sadness, it's reaching its moment of being like that, its voice being fully heard and witnessed in a neutral way. And then actually when it releases, the entire system recalibrates. And oftentimes those biomarkers are even more coherent on the other side. So the person might have a better heart rate variability. Their breath might now, instead of just automatically going down to their chest, might go down to their belly without them trying. And so you don't have to then do a modality to force or train your body to breathe more deeply. It just is, because the thing that was keeping it from that has like been fully witnessed and completed. And then so I don't know if that answers your question, but
it's perfect.
Like there's
it's perfect.
Temporary coherence and then an incoherent moment of like being held through an evolutionary moment, and then the coherence is even like broader.
Yes. No, I totally get it. And it reminds me of like when you're in a Kundalini awakening, there is a lot of shaking, there's a lot of vibrating, there's a lot of, zaps and things as your nervous system is sort of rewiring itself and releasing things and altering itself too, and a lot of movement. So maybe that's what this is a big shakeup. We're in the shakeup right now. It's really shaky. Right?
Yeah, it is really shaky. Yeah.
But there is great potential to come into the most loving and beautiful coherence beyond what we thought possible, even if we're all willing to do our part in it and do this work and make maybe a commitment to ourselves to be the healthiest version of ourselves that we can be, and what a gift that is to the world too.
Yeah. And I just want to say, we don't have to like it. You don't have, it's not about toxic positivity. No, like.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't have to like what's happening. It's just a matter of being brave enough to work through it and accept that it's happening, and having a willingness to look at everything too. It's like, we can't change what we don't see. If we don't look at it, if we don't unbury the bones, how do we heal the bones? How do we give the story to the bones, the story that was meant to be told, that said, this happened to me, this happened to these people? How do we change it if we don't look at it and just go, oh, no, right?
Well, the powerful thing about somatics is that it's not just about, it's definitely not about reliving the story. It's actually about regaining the body's capacity to be free of the story. And so as you free the body, then you find yourself spontaneously able to respond to situations differently. Like you said, you don't attract the old partner, you don't attract the same boss or situation that was toxic. So you can, accepting reality does not mean being passive. It actually means that like you free this capacity to respond in ways you didn't even know were possible, and make change that you didn't know was possible.
And maybe witness would be the better word, but it seems like things need a witness and then they can release too. So it's just a matter of, like you said, bringing it up to the surface or bringing it out of the dark and into the light with compassion. Like you said, you don't have to like it, but you can still have compassion as it's happening. I found if I just put everything and hold it in the word sacred, it becomes much more beneficial for me, because it's so easy to look at the world and go like, these things are just beyond what my heart can take sometimes, but if I put it in the lens of sacredness, then somehow that lands, and it's like, it just lands for everybody. Does that make sense? Like, we're in a very sacred time and we can make something sacred of it. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it has to begin with us making sacred exactly what we're experiencing about it too, because a lot of those of us who are empathic and sensitive think that means accepting whatever happens and then ignoring our own reaction when what actually the work is like, can we make sacred what my body is experiencing, the anger my body is experiencing, the frustration, the anxiety. And when we make it sacred, it will transmute into something that is then able to respond in really unpredictable ways. Again,
isn't that beautiful?
you cannot skip the phase of honoring your own human emotions. This work, like this, bringing the 5D into the 3D actually makes us more human. Like,
very true.
Bringing our soul into our body makes us more human.
Yeah.
There's room for all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very true. Yeah. Evelyn's like, that's good, because I don't. I don't think the caterpillar really appreciated being turned into mush either. So yeah. It probably was like, no.
Push a button and be a butterfly. No, but that reminds me of a story that I tell you. A lot of people probably heard the metaphor of like where I think someone finds a cocoon and like tries to open it up because they're starting to hatch, and they try to help the butterfly, but then it doesn't last very long because it needed to learn how to like come out. Like that was part of the process of feeling the, and I guess that's where I would really encourage bringing that like 1% of curiosity, like you talked about with the guacamole. It's like, start by honoring, like, this is so hard, but then like, can you find some pleasure in the fact that your body's actually learning how to be strong enough to like poke itself out of the cocoon, and that strength, that power that you're finding, you wouldn't find if someone just did it for you,
Oh, so true. So true. And I mean, that is why, as much as there is a little part of me that's like, why doesn't the, the other planetary systems help us more over here? We kind of maybe could use it. But it really is for that reason. If they do it for us, we'll never learn. So all they can do is help and assist. And then also, but there is, I do believe we are a wave of the volunteers that went in on the inside to help from the inside versus coming from the outside too. But yeah, what would we learn if they came in and rescued us? Maybe if it were get bad enough, they would. But that's absolutely right. It's the struggle, and you don't see how strong you are without the struggle. It's true. I never thought possible that I was this strong. I thought I was, but I never thought possible that I would find myself to be this strong on this day.
Well, and the irony is that sometimes the struggle is actually learning that the ways that we're choosing to struggle don't have to be. And so my experience, for example, with the guides on the other side is actually not that they don't want to help, but that I was too stubborn in the paradigm of like this hyper independence. How can we learn to actually ask for the right kind of help, not to be rescued, but to be like, can you just help me like learn this so I get it, but I also don't have to do it by myself.
Yes, perfect. Love that so much. Yes. Ms. Vivian is saying, if we all make an effort to raise the vibration of the world, we'll be able to bring love, compassion, and peace to our world. Yeah, it's so beautiful. And we can, and we will. Another thing you said about sometimes there has to be kind of like I forget the words that you used, but sometimes you go out of coherence to come into coherence, right? And it reminds me of Eat, Pray, Love, when Julia Roberts' character Elizabeth Gilbert went to visit, took the medicine man over in Bali, and he's like, "Why did you break up with your boyfriend, Liz?" And she's like, I was losing my balance. She was trying to maintain her spiritual, flow and everything. And he says, "Liz, sometimes sometimes being in balance, part of the balance is going out of balance is part of the balance." Sorry, I messed that up, but going out of balance is part of the balance too. So like you said, we're back in the infinity once again.
Exactly. It's multidimensional infinity, really, because it's not just going back and forth. It's also, I think I shared in that writing yesterday, like the planets are orbiting the sun, but then the sun is orbiting the galaxy, right? And so we're growing into greater and greater levels of harmony in orbit.
Isn't that great? How cool is that? How cool is that? And the magic and the mystery of that itself, like, doesn't that give us hope? Doesn't that give us something to be excited about for our future? It's just, we got to remember that, because it can be so easy to focus on 3D stuff. And it's important that we do that because there's a lot of work to do. But if we forget the magic, the mystery, and the beauty that goes with it, like, that's bringing us into like, wow, what are we going to, how can we create that? I think that motivates us to do more for ourselves so that we can all together now really make a difference. But it just, we have to, like you said, we don't have to like it, but we still need to do it. That's why I always say you don't have to like everything that's showing up for you, but it's about allowing it to take its process, allowing it to move through you, and that's okay too. Yeah.
And usually if it's hard, it's just because we're not connected to the things that are meant to resource through that. Really, I mean, another really simple way to think about trauma is I just didn't have the right resources to process it. So if it's showing up again, instead of thinking I have to power my way through this or I have to hate it and avoid it, what if I could open my field to, what did I need that I didn't have last time? How can I have that this time? Maybe it's a friend or a therapist. Maybe it's a different way that you're able to think with your own higher self. Then maybe it actually is a spiritual vibe. Maybe it's as simple as like you let yourself take a bath in the middle of the day and you normally wouldn't, or something like that. But it's actually all just about increasing our resources.
I love that. Even, approach with a little curiosity, and instead of this, even just like, we just start with a slight lean in towards it, just a slight lean in, right? And that might help us to acclimate towards, moving into it a little bit more and a little bit more. And then we realize, oh, we can do this. We can move through this energy. And I really do believe miracles happen that way, because that's how things really start to come together too. So I'm so happy you made it home safely, Miss Heidi. Thank you for listening in from your phone while you were driving home, my darling, too. Let me see. Miss Susan is saying, I've sort of got used to moving forward while sometimes not knowing where I'm going. There's no going backwards. There's only going forwards. Yeah. Very true. Yeah. That's part of the process. Yeah. Stepping into the unknown. We often say once you go down the rabbit hole, you don't come back out. It's just, you're not in Kansas anymore. This is how it is. All right. Elizabeth, this has been a beautiful and very enlightening discussion. I'm so grateful that you've shared so much wisdom. I can tell that you have put a lot into yourself and a lot into your practice, and that it's meaningful and purposeful to you. You have the energy of somebody who is, on her mission and on the path and really making a difference in this world. So I want to thank you for that. It's so appreciated. And anything else that you would like to speak about, or any last minute words that you would like to leave us with? We've got your website here below for everybody. And again, her other socials will be over on YouTube and Facebook on the event itself. And you can go back and watch the replay.
Yeah, thank you. This has been really delightful. Thank you for having me on. I guess just from a practical perspective, if you do go to my website, there's a button to join my free community where you can actually come to the solstice and equinox rituals that are available for the public, which might be a nice way to get to know my work a little bit. And then if you want to do some more intimate coaching, you can always come talk to me. But yeah, I guess the word I would leave from just more of the conversation we've been having is that curiosity we've been talking about, that little training of that little micro presence, is like these beautiful concepts we've been talking about the fifth dimension, or unity consciousness, and the infinity symbol, and all of these beautiful, beautiful things that are real, and all of the spiritual guidance that's here for us and everything. Can you just like take a moment, even maybe now, or even after we get off of the call, sitting in your space or your car or wherever you are, standing in a park, and just look with your physical eyes at the physical world and feel the textures of the physical world and know that they too are infused with this consciousness. It's not separate. We're bringing this into our tasting, our touching, our seeing. And the things that we might call ordinary or mundane are as magical as the stars spinning through the galaxy. Yeah.
So true. So absolutely true. That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. This has been such a beautiful time to share with you. I'm so grateful. And I want to thank all of our beautiful friends who are here watching and tuning in and listening. Thank you all again. We have such a beautiful community here, and they bring in, their positive energy and love and light as well too. And I'm so grateful. And thank you to our beautiful producer, Kelly Brickle, who's making all of this run so smoothly, who's also the creator of the Sacred Spiral Network as well too. Again, you can get a hold of Elizabeth at bodyandsoulsanctuary.com. She also has her YouTube channel, and she's on Facebook and Instagram as well. Please, everybody, I want you to have a beautiful weekend as you are moving into these nice, sunny, warm months, maybe hot, maybe hot, melting months as well. Then in that case, stay cool. But please do continue to live well, love you well, and be curious. I think that's the word of the day, is being curious. So thank you so much, Elizabeth. And I'll see you on the other side of the credits. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a beautiful weekend. Bye, everyone.